Do you sometimes struggle with managing client expectations? Then we have to talk about improving client communication to manage those expectations. In a design project, it is imperative as the leader of the project that you maintain trust with your client, that you maintain leadership with your client, and that you can manage their expectations throughout the entirety of the project. All of those things hinge on your being good at communication. So I'm gonna give you the 5 most critical ways to maintain good communication throughout the project. These are 5 things that I have in my office as the utmost important throughout the entirety of the project. Number one. Number 1, you have to take notes summarizing the meeting every meeting. 2 main reasons why. 1 is internal, 2 is external. Internally, you know how many times my design associate and I are like disagreeing on what the client said? They said they wanted a patterned rug. No, they didn't. They said they wanted a neutral rug. And then we read through the notes and it's like, oh, they wanted a patterned neutral rug. So internally, it's really, really helpful to make sure you understand, because memory doesn't always serve us, that you can make sure you understand and you implement the comments that they make. The second thing is externally, meaning to the client. It has happened to me before, I'm ashamed to admit it, but this is a safe place, that I have been in a meeting where I've said, okay, here's the dining room with the wooden table. And they're like, no, last meeting we said we didn't want wood because we're afraid of the rings that the cups leave. Oh, shit. And that feels really bad. I hate when I miss a comment from a client. So the other thing that it's really, really, really important for is making sure that the clients are held accountable to the comments that they make in the meeting. Because sometimes, you know the phrase like, oh, sleep on it? Well, sometimes people sleep on it and then the next day they have a different opinion. And so the meeting notes is a really good holding all parties accountable to the agreements that were made, the things that were said, and the directions that were decided on. Number 2, and this is piggybacking off of number 1, meeting notes. In your next meeting, go over those meeting notes from the last meeting. First of all, it makes sure that the client knows they're being heard and that you care about every little comment that they make and that you've implemented it into the design. It also makes sure that everybody's on the same page because they know where they're coming from. They know what happened in the last meeting. The other thing is it holds them accountable to the things that they said in the last meeting. Sometimes people change their mind and that's okay. And it's important to help them understand that they're changing their mind from something they've told you before. So if it doesn't gel with what you're about to show them, they know why you're showing them what they're showing them. Not everybody remembers what they told you in the last meeting. Not even I remember sometimes what people tell me in the last meeting. Which leads me to, in order to manage expectations, it's so important to, yes, cover where you've been, and then cover where you're going. That second meeting looks like, here's the meeting notes from the last meeting, here's where we've been, and in this meeting, here's what we're going to cover. Now, bonus tip, at the end of that meeting, what you get to say is, here's what we're gonna do in our next meeting, and go ahead and schedule that on the calendar. Again, managing their expectations in what to expect in that next meeting and when to expect that next meeting. Hey, before we go on, hit that like and hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, then your business is gonna fall apart. Okay, I'm kidding, but go and do it anyway. Number 3 is to document things that are happening outside of meetings. So we just talked about documenting meetings and the meeting pacing, but what happens when a client sends you a text message or gives you a phone call? One thing that I always do is follow up with an email so it's documented and so that they're accountable for what they said. For example, hey Susie, sending this email to confirm that per your text message, we're moving forward with X decision. Or, hey Susie, per our phone conversation today, we're moving forward with X decision, and copy the people relevant on the team. Number 4, and this one is so important, not only in having good management of your client's expectations of time, hint, hint of what number 4 is, but also in establishing leadership in a project, which is crucially important. So number 4 is establish in the beginning of a project what the timeline will be for the whole of the project. Now, this goes deeper and is more in depth than your project will take about 3 months. No, about 3 months? How many months? What amount of weeks are you in control of? What amount of weeks are in maybe a contractor's control that you're not in control of? And manage the expectations of time. When you put that into an actual timeline for the client, whoa, you are managing their expectations with time. Then you know if they do something that, for example, they go on vacation for 3 weeks, you know to say, hey, just so you know, this is gonna, I'm gonna adjust our timeline per your 3-week vacation, or we can Zoom while you're gone to keep the project flow. But knowing that the two of you are on the same page with exactly how long you think this project will go and how long you think each phase will go is incredibly important in managing their expectations. You know that in the past, I have had a client that's like, this is taking way too long. Thankfully, I was able to say, yes, this has taken much longer than we anticipated. Let's go back over our timeline. And when we looked over our timeline, it was like, ooh, because you went on that 1 month vacation, oh, it looks like that's the thing that set us back a month. And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no big deal. Whew! If I didn't have that, I probably would have thought it was my fault and been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I hate that I'm the worst. So it holds you accountable and it holds them accountable to a timeline. Number 5, always have a meeting on the calendar with every client. One way that you can do it is every time you're in a meeting, before you leave, book your next meeting. It's so cool in the way that it manages your workflow of your office because now you already know when you leave that meeting what deliverables you need to get done by what day. And that means that you're gonna hold your office, yourself, and your workflow accountable to actually following through on that timeline. And it tells the client, hey, here's when we're gonna meet next. And because you know what we talked about earlier, they know what you're meeting about next. Also, by the way, side note, that limits the amount of outside meeting text messages, emails, and phone calls that you get because they know, oh, next meeting is when we're gonna talk about this, this, and this. So I don't need to text her right now. Okay, so if you've watched this far, then I know that you're like, okay, what else? Well, I'll tell you what else. Why don't you book a call with me? And let's talk about how we can strategize how this stuff and client communication and managing expectations can be applicable to you in particular. Okay, I would love to support you in that direction. You can come on over to my calendar at thedesignershotline.com, which will take you to my calendar wherein you can book that call with me. I will be waiting with open arms to receive you. I love you and I love talking about this. And so to talk about this with you,